Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our Euro 2024 previews. I'm your host, Dan Worth, and I'm joined once more by Martin Lewis. Martin Lewis? That would be more
You want
interesting.
some money advice? Do we stick with that?
Oh my goodness. It's Martin Laurence from Who Scored. Wow, what a start to the show, Martin. I've kind of, I've let myself go with the laugh there. Sorry. I am very happy you're here. As much as Martin Lewis would be great on the show, I'm very happy you're here. And we are here to
Maybe
talk
next
about
time.
the big one. Serbia versus England, England's first game at this tournament. So much hype, or maybe lack of hype, if you're arguing from the pre-tournament games. But the first question, as we started our last episode, is how far can England go in this tournament? Or is it coming home? Is it coming home?
I'm not backing it to come home, but I'm
No.
also not too concerned by what's happened in the weeks previous. Really, I'm not reading too much into it. Obviously, it's not great. You want to be going into a tournament with some confidence, and as much as a lot of the sort of question marks have been around the sort of defensive issues that England come into the tournament with, I think what would have concerned me more from those games was the sort of lack of clear-cut chances that were created against modest opposition. I do think, certainly looking ahead to this game and the Euros in general, I know a lot was said about like England are going to have to get used to playing against these teams and practice against playing against teams that are going to set up with a low block. I think we might be doing a bit of a disservice to the likes of Serbia, certainly Denmark as well. Maybe Slovenia, I could see sitting very deep. I'm not saying that they won't sit off and make England do the sort of hard yards, as it were. But these are decent teams, and certainly ones that are at the tournament on merit, and certainly considerably stronger than the likes of Bosnia and Iceland, which I guess doesn't bode that well given we just lost to Iceland, but also might not be too much of a negative thing, because I don't think it will be exactly the same sort of pattern. I think England will have a little bit more chance to sort of find spaces, because Serbia's sort of, they've got some decent defenders and they're a good organised side, but they've got good attacking players, and they will want to impose their own sort of style on this game as well, I think. So, yeah, in terms of England's chances, I don't make them favourites like many did pre-tournament. But in terms of the quality that they have in an attacking positions, then certainly they're up there with the very best. But I would be concerned that some of those attacking players haven't really produced consistently for England on this sort of stage. So yeah, it's an exciting team, right? Let's be optimistic about that. And they could go very deep into the tournament, and I think they will go deep into the tournament. But whether they can win it, they can win it. But whether I think they will is a different question.
No, to be honest, my feelings are almost exactly the same, and I kind of struggle the opposite way, that I'm usually a little bit too optimistic. But I think I've been quite grounded by England's price. Like, I know there are a few places offering 4-1 on England to win the tournament, but generally it's been around 3-1, which I just think is way too short for this England team, particularly when you consider, like, currently we don't have a fit left-footed defender, I don't think. There's so many question marks around the defence. We failed to score against Iceland, which my main point is that I don't think we need to even really bother about talking about that Iceland game, because it's just a friendly. I don't think there's anything really to read into too much. But I guess lingering in the back of my head is we failed. Well, we had one shot on target against Iceland. Like, that is alarming. And obviously, it's quite easy then to go, well, oh, maybe if we were taking Grealish, we'd have created more, or maybe if we had Rashford as an outlet on the left. But yeah, we no point in talking about that, because we don't have those guys for this tournament. So yeah, there are concerns, which is why I do think that, like, 3-1, 4-1 England to win the tournament, it seems way too short for me. But they definitely deserve to be in the discussion of potential winners, probably in the top 4 rather than the top 1, I think. But one key thing then, just to throw it back to you, Martin, is the discussion on who is Southgate going to play in the midfield? Largely, who is he going to play alongside Declan Rice if he's going to go with the two sort of CDMs? Is he going to go with Trent? Can Trent play in midfield? Well, we know he can. Can he do it well in a big tournament? Is that his best position? So many questions. Just talk about Trent for me, Martin.
I'd talk about Trent in the same conversation that I'd talk about Walker personally. I have slight concerns over Kyle Walker.
Right.
I still think he's great. Don't get me wrong. And he's still a top level defender, but there is a regression there, I think. And I'd still have him against, like, if we're coming up against France and he's up against Mbappe, then you're still playing Walker every single day of the week. But I do think, and I'll probably go back on sort of contradict myself here, like against teams that England should be expected to beat, I think Alexander-Arnold, as much as he has his sort of frailties defensively, he's a good enough right back with enough of a bank of sort of experience at right back. He is a right back to play there and to put your faith in him and to have that skill set from that position. I think from the two warm-up games, the one thing that we did learn and the one positive was that Alexander-Arnold should be playing, should be starting, whether that's a right back or in midfield. And I just think against the likes of, certainly against potentially Serbia and the likes of Slovenia, I'd be playing Alexander-Arnold at right back personally, and then getting someone else in midfield, and not necessarily someone to add more of an attacking sort of personnel in there necessarily, but somebody possibly like a Gallagher that could potentially free up Declan Rice, because I don't really want Rice to be my sitting midfielder and have to worry. Like, as much as he is great at that, we've seen at Arsenal this season, and even in sort of the latter days at West Ham, that he's particularly good when he is released and doesn't have to just worry about protecting that back four. So I think it would give that midfield a little more sort of impetus if Rice could be freed up. And to my mind, probably Gallagher's the one that would enable that. As much as he's not the sitting midfielder, and between the two of them, they get through a lot of ground and have enough steel in there to be that basis to build from. So yeah, that would be my play. I think I'd play Alexander-Arnold for sure, but horses for courses, right? And I think I still see Alexander-Arnold as a right back. He's so good from there. So yeah, that's what I'd do.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the obsession is with trying to force Trent to be a midfielder. Like, he's a very good right back, and I know that like people will say, "Oh, you know, he's not the best defensively." Like, he's not bad. Like, people act as if he can't defend to save his life. Like, it's ridiculous. And I think, well, I completely agree with you that when he came on against Iceland, like, he almost looked like the only one that was going to create anything, and which is mad to say when you think of the talent that was on show. One person who you didn't mention, I don't know if it was deliberately, but Kobbie Mainoo as well can play alongside Declan Rice.
Yeah.
I'm a massive Mainoo fan, but you obviously have to contest with the fact that he's quite young. Well, he's very young, doesn't have any experience at big tournaments. Like, obviously probably played a lot more than he was expecting for Man United this season because of, I mean, United just had a million issues, right? But injuries largely. And he's done well. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm certainly not here to badmouth Mainoo. I think he's done a great job for Man United. I just question maybe whether it's just a lot for him to come and do it on a big stage.
Yeah, I think
so. I go on.
He's an exceptional talent, right? Technically a brilliant footballer. I think he's sort of been almost forced to play, like you say, probably more than would have been expected. And in that vein, he's probably not. Nobody really knows what his best role is. The thing that would concern me about Mainoo is that, as much as he's a really young player and you can't place blame on him, and the sort of more experienced players at United certainly should be sort of have more of that blame apportioned to them for the mess at times that was the back of their midfield. He was a pretty constant part of the back of that midfield that got too easily ripped through time and time and again, and it happened against Iceland, that they created the better chances than England. And again, I'm not blaming Mainoo. He's a fantastic player and will be a key player for England. I just don't think we're at a point where we know how to get the best out of him, what his best sort of who sort of profile of player he needs to play alongside is, and that's fine. He's 18 years old. I would have taken him to the tournament. I think he's more than good enough to go to the tournament and more than good enough to have an impact and play a part. But in terms of my best 11, that still would concern me that he's played in a Manchester United team that got ripped to shreds multiple times, conceded the second or third most shots in the league or something like that.
Certainly I think in Europe, right? Second most in Europe.
So yeah, that's a problem.
So
yeah, that would be my concern there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to agree, but I guess like his options, right? Southgate's got options, which can only be a good thing. We've spoken a lot about England. Then let's have a little chat about Serbia. I've seen a lot of commentary on social media and elsewhere of how good England are and how they're going to win this group and all that kind of stuff. But Serbia have got to have half a chance, right? Serbia have got to be in that discussion of group contenders. What do you make of their chances?
Yeah, they're no mugs for sure. They've got the sort of ingredients that you need for a good international team. They've got talent in attacking areas. They've got a solid back three that have good experience playing in Europe and in sort of European competition as well, not just at sort of club level, domestic level, I should say. They've got a very experienced and solid midfield. They've got creativity. They've got delivery from the flanks and the source of Kostic. And when you've got that and you've got Alexander Mitrovic up front, then you've got a recipe for goals. And Mitrovic, as much as that's the thing, they've had great strikers come through in recent years. Like, I mean, Luka Jovic hasn't lived up to the potential, but he looked like he was going to be an absolute star. Vlahovic is obviously an excellent striker, but Mitrovic is still the main man, right? He's still, even though he's playing in the Saudi Pro League, his record at international level is phenomenal, and he will feel like he's got not so much a point to prove, but maybe a point to prove, because he's gone to Saudi, and a lot of the players have gone to Saudi, even Milinkovic-Savic, who's in there, certainly have a point to prove on the international and the European stage, so to speak, to say that, look, we're still the business, so to speak, and they're not the sort of players who lack for confidence. So this is a really, really tough opener, I think, for England. They're a very good side.
Yeah, I agree, and I actually think Mitrovic could. Well, I mean, he's going to cause a lot of issues, I think, for Stones and Guehi, like particularly Guehi. Like, I'm a massive fan. Again, like it sounds like I'm disrespecting these players, but like Mitrovic is a real handful on his day, and I do think he could cause England some problems. So yeah, there are a few things to be wary of, and I think England might not have it all their own way. I do kind of think they win, which I think we'll come on to, but yeah, Serbia, as you say, are no mugs, and I definitely want to watch in this group. Oh, nice. Yeah, bringing up those 11. See, look, we got Trent in midfield there in the preview, with Walker at right back. So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye out for. If you watched our last episode, you know that we went through a couple of bet builders towards the end. I think we're going to do the same again. I've got my bet builder prepared, which I'm quite excited by. But Martin, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, sure. So we're using Oddschecker's new bet builder comparison tool, which you can find on the Oddschecker site. It's clearly signposted. It's a really great tool, and if you go to the game page, there's this new sort of bet builder tab to be able to find it really easily. So the tool looks like this. We have the markets, a couple of markets selected that you can play around with, or you can add from a plethora of markets below. So I'm not picking either of these markets, the win market or the anytime goal scorer market. I'm not confident enough in either of those personally. One thing that I am going to go for, and we'll get some mumbles, I think, from plenty of bettors, is I'm going to go under 2.5 goals. I just think this is a smart play. Like, opening games for any side are usually quite tight. England don't go into this game full of confidence, and Serbia will certainly look to exploit that. But yeah, I think it's been a long time since England's sort of opening Euros game saw over 2.5. And I know the game against Iran in the last World Cup was 6-2, was it their opening game?
Yeah.
Can't see that here. I
little bit
think
different.
Serbia are a very good outfit. So yeah, under 2.5 goals for me. As much as it's not the sort of exciting play. Next market I'm going to go into is a card, and I'm going to go for Strahinja Pavlovic of Serbia. So he's a Serbia centre back, plays for Salzburg, and for a centre back picks up a huge amount of cards. So I think he's got 10 yellow cards in around 26 Austrian Bundesliga matches this season. He's got 13 yellow cards in 35 internationals. So that's one every 3 games just for club and country, really, which is massive for a centre back. It's a huge amount. He's a big guy, puts himself about up against Harry Kane, who's a bit of a master of the sort of dark arts, as it were, himself in terms of winning fouls and putting his body about. So yeah, he looks a really good bet to me for a card. And then my last bet is going to be player shots on target, and it's going to be Jude Bellingham. Obviously, he hasn't played in the warm-up matches, and that's going to be a sort of big difference from those games. I think England do miss him when he's not there. He's a huge presence, right? And obviously coming off the back of a phenomenal season for Real Madrid. 35 shots on target in the league last season, I think, from 28 games. So he averages over 1 a game. Got a shot on target in each of his last 5 games in La Liga. And I think he'll just pop up in the box plenty here. Gets on the end of crosses as well as sort of late runs into the box. So yeah, I think 1 shot on target for Bellingham is a relatively safe option. I wouldn't want to go more than that, just because I do think it will be quite a tight game. But yeah, that's my bet. So we can see here best odds for that bet. So that's under 2.5 goals, Pavlovic card, Bellingham 1 shot on target, 1 or more shots on target, I should say, 16-1, which seems long to me. And when we check the comparison between the bookies in the market, again, 16-1s with Bet365, and you can get as low as 9-1. So from just as an example, from a £10 bet, you're going to make 70 quid more returns if it does come in. So that's why this tool is properly invaluable for bet builder users. Like the ability to build bets really easily and get to the best price, and then click out to the best price and that populate in your bet slip on that bookmaker. It's a complete journey, and one that you need to be using if you're a bet builder fan this summer.
Yeah, that's so good, and that price variance there, like, is the biggest thing for me. Like, it's that easy to do, and you're going to get like a much better price. It's a bit of a no-brainer for me. But I'll quickly run through my one then. I've gone into the anytime goal scorer market, and I've obviously gone for Harry Kane. I think it's the only one. It just jumps off the page, doesn't it? England's top goal scorer. I think he scored. I should have really written this down, but I think he scored in 8 of his last 9 for England. It may be 7 of 8. Sorry if I've got that wrong, but scored in a lot of his most recent England games. Obviously didn't score when he started against Iceland, but as I said earlier in the show, I'm writing that game off. England's main man. Like, if we get any penalties, I'd imagine he takes it. Obviously, there's Palmer now, but Kane will be taking them. I'm pretty certain. We've spoken at length about him, but my second leg is Alexander Mitrovic to be shown a card. It was Mitrovic, right? He gets stuck in. I said this yesterday when we did our Scotland bets. Like, it kind of writes itself. Mitrovic getting booked, it just happens. He's going to be coming up and tussling with Gueye and Stones, and he's been booked 20 times for Serbia, which is the most of any Serbian player. I guess you could use that to argue he's the most likely Serbian player to get booked, and going to have a tough time. So I could see that happening. So Mitrovic to be carded as a second leg, and a little bit boring for viewers, but I've gone with the same as you with under 2.5 goals. You mentioned the stat that I think it was since 2004 was the last time England's opener had more than 2.5 goals. England fans won't really want to revisit that because it was when France scored 2 very late ones, or Zidane scored 2 very late ones. I can just see it being cagey. Like, people are going to expect England to come flying out the traps and hammer them in. I don't see that happening. I think England probably win this 2-0 if you had to pin me down to a score, which would see the under 2.5 come in nicely. So if you compare that, you can see it's 28-1 with Bet365, which
it's massive.
Again, feels very long, and just 16-1 elsewhere in the market. So you're not too far off getting double the odds if you use this tool, which as I just said, it is so good. Like, you don't want to be missing out on that huge discrepancy. If this does win, you want to win bigger, right? So use the tool, get the best price. Seems simple as that. Right. We've chatted about the Bet Builder tool. Everyone's going to go and use it after watching this. Please do gamble responsibly if you are placing bets and bet builders on any of the markets we're talking about, any football. Mainly just go and enjoy it, guys. Super exciting. Summer of sport, like, doesn't get much better than England in a big tournament if you're an England fan, obviously. As we both are. So enjoy, guys, and we'll see you later on in the tournament, I'm sure.